Hi, my name is Alan, and we're gathered here today to learn about the Night Trainer Pro. I've been involved with Black Knight's groundbreaking badminton machine project since the very beginning. In 2008, we brought out the world's first badminton machine, and since then have been working on what the next generation could be, completely rethinking the concept, build, and the features and capabilities. And finally, a few months ago, we launched the Night Trainer Pro, and that's what we're here to talk about today. In this video, you're going to learn about positioning the Night Trainer Pro on the court, and then creating a new drill, creating the shots that go with that drill, and how to put them into the playlist in order to have any combination, whether in sequence or random, or a combination of sequence and random, that you want to have in order to train yourself or train your players. Keep in mind, though, that the Night Trainer Pro does come with several dozen drills already installed. So easy as it is to create new ones, you may not find yourself having to do that very often. And now, let's get down to details. It's helpful to think about the machine as if it was a player on the court. In order to create a shot, a player has to be in a position, has to strike the bird at some height, has to give it direction, has to give it tilt, and has to give it power. These 5 factors are the same factors that we will apply with the Night Trainer Pro. When we initially create a drill, which is done by clicking on the new icon up here at the top left of the screen, or clicking on the File menu, which gives us access to the new option as well. When we first create that drill, we have to have in mind where we intend to put the Night Trainer on the court, because that's going to determine, with the other 3 factors of direction, tilt, and speed, where the shuttlecocks are going to go. The particular drill that we're going to create here, for purposes of learning how to do it, will be a 4-corner drill with 2 net shots and 2 clears. My first step when I create a new drill is to give it a name. You can change the name later in the drill folder, wherever you happen to have saved it. But here at the beginning, I'm going to indicate that this is a 4-corner drill. I am further going to specify in my drill name the height at which I'm going to put the machine and its position on the court as distance from the net and distance from the left outside line. So here we go. I have it at the minimum height, so I'm just going to put H min. I have it at 10 feet from the outside left line, which is 305 centimeters. And I also have it at 10 feet from the net, which is also 305 centimeters. Just quickly here, I have to apologize to all of you who live and work in the metric system. Having named the drill, we're now going to just confirm to the system the parameters that we've decided upon. So I've got here machine height at 4.5 feet, which happens to be the minimum. Here, I'm going to indicate that the distance from the net is 10 feet. And here I'm going to indicate that the distance from the left is 10 feet. That adjusts slightly the position of the Knight's Head logo that I had dragged around earlier. When I say OK, we're going to see that logo representing the machine, indicating that it's machine number 1, because there is the option of having other machines on the court. And we have our machine location. We have the left side of the net. If we try to create a shot here, we will get a message that shots must cross the net to be legal. I don't think that comes as a surprise to any of us. But on the right side of the net, we have the possibility now of creating shots and building them into drills. An important step is to make sure that the machine is actually pointing straight ahead, wherever we are, whether we're on the center line, in which case it's obvious what is represented by straight ahead, or we're positioned on one side or the other side. We want the machine at the 0 angle that you'll see in a moment to also shoot out in a straight ahead direction. In order to do that, we are going to create a shot on the center line, and the shot creation process involves a left click, which opens a shot creation window. In this case, I'm going to name my shot just as center, because the purpose of the shot is just for that center test. In fact, we'll go a step further. We'll call it center test. In this window, we can do a few things. We can play around with how the trajectory will change with the tilt angle changes, with speed changes. But both for the center test shot and other shots that will follow, you will find that it is much faster to do the naming here, and one other thing that I'll show you in a moment, and then just say okay and be on our way to back to the court where we can do other things more precisely. The other point I just want to quickly make here is this is also where you will indicate if there are multiple machines connected, you will be able to choose or say which machine is responsible for the particular shot that's being created. In this case, we have one machine, so we're leaving it as one machine. We're saying okay. As you know, over here, we see the icon for the machine, number one. There is no other machine, not a problem. We're going to now go to the shot we created, and we're going to make sure with a right click and choosing adjust shot that it is truly centered. So we see here we want to modify this pan angle to 0. The tilt angle is sufficient to go over the net. The speed is sufficient to take it a distance into the court. And so if we now hit test, which you'll hear, we get a shot, and we can judge by where that shot landed whether or not we want to move the position of the machine slightly. And this will involve rotating the machine a little bit, possibly shifting the 3 feet of the tripod, but more likely just by rotating the machine itself. We can test again. If we're not satisfied, it's the machine that we have to change for this. Once we're satisfied and taking into account that shuttlecocks in different states of condition or different type qualities of shuttlecocks will fly a bit differently. Once we're satisfied that we're on the center line, straight ahead, we can lock the machine in place. As in the manual, you'll see that there's a way to lock the position of the head of the machine on the tripod, and there's a way to lock the tripod itself on the ground. Now we can go and create the shots that we actually intend to use in this drill. And for that, we want to create 2 net shots, and we want to create 2 clears. So we'll return to the shot creation window with a left click. Once we have put the cursor, the little arrow, at the point where we want that shot to go. So I've chosen this spot for my net shot. Left click. This is to the right side of the player, so I'm calling this an R net, right net. And I'm just going to say okay at this point. As I mentioned earlier, this screen doesn't allow us the fine tuning that we can get in the adjustment window that we'll go back to and discuss in more detail in a moment. I can also go to the back of the court now, and again, with a left click, shot creation window, this is my right clear. It's the right side of the court relative to the player. This naming, by the way, it's arbitrary. It's a system that we use. It's a system that you'll see in the drills that we provide, but any user is free to use their own system. I only urge you to have some system and to apply it as consistently as you can. So we have these 2 shuttlecocks on the court representing 2 shots that will be in the drill. This is left over from doing the centering. We can remove it, but I recommend leaving it in position because the next time that you roll out the night trainer to run this drill, you will want to check the centering. And so that shot's already there with which you can do that. Now we're going to right click on the cork of the shuttlecock for our first net shot. There's some options there, which we'll get to one by one as they come up, but we're returning to adjust shot. And in this case, the system has calculated that from here to that position on the side of the court, it's a minus 30 degree angle. Minus 30 because 0 is the center line. The angle to the left is treated as negative. The angle to the right, you'll see in a moment, is treated as positive. It's giving us only a 4 degree tilt angle. Because we're trying to get the shuttlecock to drop relatively close to the net, I'm going to go for a 30 degree tilt angle. It's giving us quite a bit of speed because of the fooling around that we did earlier in the shot creation window where we used the sliders. And so that threw off that number, and I'm going to reduce that quite a bit to 20. Now put out a test shot. Based on where that shuttlecock lands, we can make some decisions. For example, we may consider that it was not in the right place relative to the sideline, and we're doing this as a singles drill, so the single sideline. So we can come back and we can just change that to minus 28. It may be that we're not as close to the net as we want it to be, so perhaps we'll change our upward tilt angle to 32. And perhaps we're going to find that we wanted it to go a little bit further back in the court. Now it's going to have a little bit more height in its flight because we changed the tilt angle. So let's change the speed to 22, test it again. And if we're satisfied, we're just going to exit and we're going to go over to the cork of the clear. We're going to do the same thing to adjust. In this case, I'm just hitting the letter A rather than clicking adjust with the arrow or the cursor. And we're now going to get our options here. Tilt angle, 6.5 degrees. That doesn't represent a clear for me. I hope it doesn't represent a clear for you. So we're going to make that 35. And we have quite a bit of power here. We'll do a test. So that was a good clear. Next step is to create those shots on the other side of the court. And happily, we have added a mirroring feature. And we're going to show that and use that now for the first time. You're going to right click to get the context menu. And one of the options is to mirror the shot. When the night trainer is positioned on the center line, the mirroring is very straightforward. You just have to modify the name in this case because it's no longer to the player's right, it's to the player's left. There is at the end the letter M representing that it's a mirrored shot. It doesn't actually matter beyond this point. We can leave it or not as we wish. So we now have that same shot positioned down here as a left net shot for the player. Should point out now that if the machine is in other positions on the court, for example, if the machine is near a sideline here and we create and mirror a shot, the angle cannot be mirrored because in this case the angle would be 0. In this case the angle might be minus 35. You're going to see right now that we're going to adjust this new shot. We have the proper mirroring of the angle, which is the only number that has to be mirrored, but we still do want to test it. And if it's not quite in the right position on the player's left side, then we will tweak that. When we're satisfied, we will exit. Similarly, here, we're going to mirror. Just the letter M is sufficient. We're going to change the R to an L. I'm choosing to leave the letter M at the end, indicating that it is a shot that was created through the mirror function. Say OK. It's now on the opposite side of the court available to us. I'm going to adjust. The only thing that may have to be tweaked would be the angle because there can be some slight variation in the machine itself as to how it interprets the left and the right directions. So we'll just do a test. Being satisfied, we will exit, and we now have 4 shots on the court, 2 drops, 2 clears, and we're ready to turn these into a drill. We put into the drill only the shots we want to have. We can have 20 shots on this court right now, and if we only want 4 of them in the drill, we are only putting 4 of them in the drill. Again, on the cork, right-click, insert, and it's going to be added to our playlist to the right. It's added to the playlist with a default interval, shot interval of 2.5 seconds before the shot. We can change this number here. We can add all of our shots and change the number afterwards. We can give every shot its own unique amount of time before that shot is played. In this case, to illustrate something, I'm going to change that to 3 seconds. That as every shot is added, the shots that are added will take the interval of the shot immediately preceding the one that was added. So if your intention is to have all the shots at 3 seconds, changing it now is going to make it more efficient for you because otherwise you would have to go back and change them all from 2.5 to 3. So we have our right net. Now we're going to have our right clear. When I choose insert here, because the highlighted shot is the first one on the list, it's going to prompt me. Do I want my new shot to go above it or below it? There is the prompt. This only happens when the highlighted shot is the first one in the list. Do I want to insert a new first shot? In this case, no. I want the clear to follow the net shot, so I will say no. If I said yes, the clear would go above the net shot. So the player has now had a net shot, then they've gone to the back of the court for a clear. Now we're taking them cross court to the net. We're going to insert this shot, and they will go to the back of the court for a clear. And we're going to insert this shot. At this point, if I simply run this playlist, it will give me each shot in order once only. And we can see down here shots in drill for the drill duration 12 seconds. And also, by the way, unique shots on the court here on the bottom left, 5. So there are 5 shots on the court, but there are only 4 of them that have been put into the playlist. I don't think that having a player run one time through this and just play 4 shots is really the goal of a 4-corner drill. What we do now is we select all the shots that we want repeated, and we create a loop, and that is done by right-clicking on the selection and choosing the loop option. What will be important in this submenu, this right-click submenu, will be loop, group, and change loop count. So we're starting with loop. By default, it represents 5 times, meaning that it will go through these shots and will go back to the top and go through these shots, and it will do it a total of 5 times. So that now, for the player, the drill will give him 20 shots to return, and it will take him 1 minute to complete this. If we want to change that, change the looping, we're going to select the top line of the loop, and this is important, the top line, not the bottom line of the loop, not the end of the loop. We're going to right-click again, and we come to change loop count. We click on change loop count, get a little window here, and we get, for example, say 8. We say OK, and you'll see now it will loop 8 times. Now there will be 32 shots in the drill. The 4 shots times the 8 loops is 32, and it will take 1 minute and 36 seconds to run through the whole drill. Other things that we can do would involve, for example, deciding that we want a couple more emphasis on a couple of shots. So it may be that we want the player to always have 2 net shots when they go to the net. So I can come here, I can go back to my right net shot, right-click on the cork, insert at current location, and then for my left net shot, come here, insert at current location, and the drill would then go right net, right clear, left net, left clear, and all of this would loop 8 times. So now we're up to 48 shots. Now we're up to a drill duration of 2 minutes and 24 seconds. I'm going to clear this now, and we're going to do this a little bit differently. Clearing it by selecting all the shots in this case. You can do it 1 shot at a time. And I'm going to delete all of these shots. I want to point out to you that at a later point, you will know how to pause a drill that is in progress and then resume that drill. If you have paused the drill and you suddenly have the thought that you want to modify a shot or you want to delete a shot or insert a shot, you'll find that you can't do that. It'll tell you that you cannot make changes while the drill is running. So changes to shots, changes to what appears in the playlist can only be done when a drill is not running. So it's either has not been started or it's come to a full stop. So we're going to delete all of these and we're going to build it up again, but a little bit differently. We'll do the 2 net shots first. Insert. Insert. We will not put it in as a new first shot. As discussed earlier, we will insert now these clears. And we're going to throw in a new wrinkle, and it's called a group. So first step, I'm going to select the net shots, and I am going to choose group. The group function basically means that as you go through the playlist and you reach some shots that are inside a group, this is group number 1, the system will choose one of the shots randomly and then leave the group. It will not play both of these shots. It will randomly choose one of them. If you want to favor a shot, you can put the same shot in the group several times, and that will increase the probability that it will be selected, but there will still only be one choice within the group. These 2 clears I will now put into a group as well. So this is going to be group number 2. As it stands right now, while there are 4 shots in the drill, the player will only actually return 2 shots because the first group, 1 shot chosen randomly, moving to the second group, 1 shot chosen randomly. We can then take the whole group or any part of it, and we can now right-click and create a loop. Perhaps we'll put a 10-time loop in this time. You can see now that the shots in the drill are 20, and the drill duration will be 50 seconds. So it is now calculating the fact that the first group has only 1 shot that will be played, 1 shot randomly, the second group, 1 shot randomly, and it's going to repeat that 10 times 2, 10 times 2, 20 times to the shots in the drill that you see down here. How this will manifest on the court when you're running the drill is that the player will, as a first shot, get a net shot either to the left or to the right, and the second shot will be a clear either to the left or to the right, and that will continue through the 10 cycles. So rather than having the pattern, the clear pattern that we had before, the player will adapt to the fact that sometimes the drop shot is to one side and sometimes the drop shot is to the other side. We can, within that, decide that we want more attention paid to the net shots. And so perhaps in order to have more net shots, maybe we're going to put in a loop just around the net shot. So that'll be a second loop. And let's say we want them to have 3 net shots. By putting this loop in, what is inside this loop with a 3-time repetition is going to be a choice of 1 net shot, one of these 2 net shots. So when we start the drill, it's going to descend to the group, it's going to choose one randomly, it's going to do that 3 times. When it is finished doing that 3 times, that loop will end and we go back up to the top because we're doing that part of it 10 times. So time number 2, it will loop 3 times through the net shots, 1 time through the clears, and that loop will end, and then number 3 will repeat the same way.